Hi everyone, I have another build to demo for you. This is a really pretty saber. It's, I think, my personal favourite. I have one of these myself, not this exact model, but I have a KRSabers variant of it. And it is the Anakin Skywalker Episode 2 lightsaber. So this is a Watto's Junkyard Tusken Slayer Elite. Which has been shipped over to me by Laura. I think it's Laura's, I'm not sure. Someone on the Facebook commented that it was actually their saber, so I have no idea whose saber I put together. Pretty sure it's Laura's. It's absolutely gorgeous. The guys at Watto's Junkyard do such good work. Like, it's fantastic. I had one of the Dooku hilts in hand the other day, and that was equally as amazing. This thing is heavy, it feels properly well put together, it's fantastic. I'm just going to go through the whole process from start to finish of like putting a fresh battery in, because there's some caveats that you want to watch out for when putting this one together. We are running with a chassis that was designed by Sabers, and it's a fully removable chassis, but there are elements of this that make it a little bit snug, so I want to make sure that obviously you're fully equipped to take the chassis out, put it back in whenever you want. So basically, to get started, obviously you've got your two tactile switches in the middle, which are on magnetized plungers that connect down to the chassis on the inside. So you just want to unscrew it in the middle section. The entire lower section turns off, which I believe is the only difference between the Elite version of this. I say the only difference, it's one of the main differences between the Elite version of this and the regular one. And the whole thing slides off the bottom like that, revealing the battery compartment. This chassis does have spots for some additional accent lighting, kind of along the sides here, as well as up here underneath the Proffieboard. But in effort to be as cost effective as possible and also save the battery life, we didn't install any of that. We've literally just set up the neopixel emitter and the two accent blinkies on the side here. So the whole chassis will slide out. When you're removing the chassis from the saber, I've set up the magnets so that they're in the correct order. So basically the first plunger will be pushed up and out of the way as the chassis slides in and out. If the polarity was the other way around, or if the order of the magnets was flipped, it would mean that when you went to put the chassis in, the two plungers would be kind of clamped to it, and then you would break a button off and it would be a nightmare. So I'm hoping I've done it the right way. It seems correct to me. But just for sanity, what I like to do is just turn the hilt upside down, so the buttons are pointing downwards when you pull the hilt out, or when you pull the chassis out. Speaking generally, it's unlikely you'll ever need to pull this out. I mean, you can reach the Proffieboard through this USB port just under there. The battery is fully removable from here, and everything else is secured up inside the hilt, so I can't really see any reason why you would need to remove the chassis. I would advise against doing it all the time if possible. It comes in and out pretty easily. I'm just worried about these buttons here because the tolerance is very slim, so just be careful. So like I said, I'm going to flip this that way up and just slide the chassis out. The whole thing will come out. It's a little bit snug. I've printed it slightly wider than it should be so that it is as snug as it can be. The whole thing comes out, and you can see the magnets have just depressed those two plungers and popped them out. So obviously make sure you don't drop them and lose them. They're pretty snug at the end, so I doubt you'd lose them, but you know, you never know. Yeah, the whole thing comes out in one nice easy movement. All the way, there we go. So let's talk about the chassis. This is running with a Shtok V3 long pin connector on the top with the lens. It's got two 5mm nano pixels up the top, two tactile switches. I modified the chassis in a few places, and the switches is one of the places that I did it. Wade was very kind enough to send me over the files. Well, I bought the files through the Etsy, but he was happy enough to send me over other formats and things, and we chatted through switch solutions and stuff like that. But I did have to modify this chassis to fit these tactile switches because they were the ones that I had on hand. I didn't want to go hunt down a bespoke, I think it was like a 0.38mm switch or something like that, and I would have had to get one from AliExpress and it would have taken forever. So instead we just modified the original chassis file to accommodate the switches I had. Proffieboard 2.2, running the latest firmware, OS7 we're on now, as well as the latest FET 263 button prop for the configuration. High amp kill switch here, and then room for an 18650 battery here, and then a 22mm speaker from KRSabers. While this is a 22mm speaker, it does pack a real punch. It's quite impressive. So once you've got the chassis, I mean, like I said, you probably won't need to remove the chassis completely like this. I'm just doing it for demonstration purposes. You will be able to access the battery compartment without needing to open the entire hilt up and remove the chassis. But I've just done it so you know how to do it. In fact, what I may do is actually pop this back in so you can see how I would put the hilt in as we put the chassis in as well. Again, buttons pointed downwards, chassis slides in like that, align the buttons to the right side. It is, like I said, it is snug. You will have to give it a little bit of force, but don't push it at a weird angle because you might snap the chassis and then we'll be in for a world of pain. But what I like to do is when I've got it in this far is just tilt it and kind of look down the barrel and make sure the buttons are aligned. So here you can see they are not aligned, they are out of alignment. So just give it a little twist and then go forwards. Gentle, gentle. And when you're putting it in, make sure these two plungers don't slip down, because if they slip down, they'll catch the button and rip the magnet off and then you'll be in trouble. So we slide it all the way in, goes in like that. And then when you just gently depress these, you can see they lock back onto the magnets, and just check them, make sure they're clicky. One of them is not, so I need to reseat the chassis a little bit. There we go, happy days. So really this will be the state that you only ever have to put it in, just where you've got access to the battery. I will chrome wrap this battery for you. I know we talked about that. It's on my list of things to do. It is a standard setup that I do. It's the flat side to the spring side and the nipple to the nipple. So in this case, the positive of the battery points upwards towards the hilt, or towards the emitter, and the flat side points downwards towards the speaker. As you can see, here's the spring, the flat one, and there's the nipple, the positive side. The battery is really snug.
If you'll excuse me.
Flip the kill switch, Braxton. The battery is pretty damn snug. When it goes in, when it's in, if you want to get it out smoothly, what I like to do is get a pair of non-conductive tweezers and just put them in at the positive side and like flick it out, and then it comes out really easily. For other hilts, I would recommend usually just like tapping the hilt on your knuckle or something until the battery comes loose. But for this, because it is such a thin chassis, I wouldn't recommend that. So once you've got the battery in, kill switch, flip it on.
Jedi business, go back a few drinks.
And you'll boot to start with on the Tusken Terminator font, like we discussed, and then you get your blinkies. The blinkies do the same thing for every single font. I would have loved to put more kind of colour and variation in this, but because the blinkies are coming through red and green lenses, it makes it kind of limited in what we can do without the colours looking really weird. I could have it so that maybe one of them is off and one of them is turned on, but I figured you don't get as nice effect without the two blinkies. So at the moment, on every single font, they just run the Luke Return of the Jedi cave scene blinkies, because I like that pattern, really. And then anytime the saber is on, they just like pulse and blink independently. They're wired independently, so they can do different things. They can both be different colours, whatever. We can reconfigure that if we need to. So once you flip the kill switch, just take the lower section of the hilt and screw it back on. Goes on pretty easily. The threads are a little snug on this one. Maybe I might grease up the threads before I send it back to you, because it can be a bit of a pain. Okay, got it all the way on. And that's pretty much it. The button setup is your top button is your activation, and the lower button is your auxiliary, because in my eyes the button that's furthest away is the one you'll be pressing the least, therefore the power. But yeah, I'll just show it off quickly. For a 22mm speaker, it comes out really loud. It's very impressive. And of course, gesture controls. I love this saber. I think it's put together really well. It's a cat going crazy out in the hallway. It's a completely toolless saber, so you don't need an Allen key, you don't need anything like that. You basically just unscrew this top golden one, this top brass one, and that's your blade retention. It's a 1-inch blade. Put my test blade in, slide it in. When you push it in, just give it a little kind of nudge down until you can feel the springs of the connector compressing. Hold it down and then tighten, and then you're away. I won't go through all the fonts because there's about 25 of them on here. There's quite a few, but we'll just do some highlights.
I've got a bat. What is it? Obi-Wan.
I sense something. Presence I've not felt since... I've been waiting for you, Obi-Wan. Again, at last.
So every single font that is canon, as in like from the movies or from the TV shows or whatever, has tracks and quotes attached to it, which came in the fonts you sent over. Some of the grayscale ones, in fact all the grayscale ones, don't have any quotes or tracks or anything because they don't come with it.
The Force. Hurry. Be careful. The One.
Ahsoka Tano! Bo-Katan sent me.
Show yourself, Jedi.
Dark Saber.
You have something. Slave 1.
Let's try one of these grayscale ones, see how that one looks. So the grayscale fonts, just want to chat about those quickly. They're using the optimized versions which FET263 has just come out with as part of his overhaul for Proffie OS7, which means they're a lot more lightweight. So normally, while we couldn't fit many fonts on there if we were using any of the grayscale ones because they're really heavy, these optimized ones look practically identical and they run way lighter than they were before. So we've managed to actually get quite a few things on here. The majority of the fonts are coming through from the presets file, which I've set up through the web interface. So a lot of the blade styles are duplicated, but the grayscale ones are all unique, the dark saber ones are unique, and then they're also duplicated based on the style. So like the prequel sound fonts have a particular look and a kind of clash color and a feel to them, and then the original trilogy have a different feel, and then same for the sequels as well. So I've tried to keep it all consistent and make sure at least there's as much variation as possible while working with the limited space that we have on the Proffie 2.2. I know you did ask about getting a Proffi 3 board in here, which at the time I kind of shot down, being like, you can't want that many fonts on there, hopefully. I was wrong. Turns out we could have done with the Proffi 3, but maybe a plan for a future upgrade. Everything is on there that you wanted on there in the first place, so we can revisit if we need to. But I think that's pretty much it. I'm just looking at my cheat sheet. Yeah, I think that's everything. It's a really beautiful hilt. I love this one. I'm working on my own chassis designs for the KRSabers one that I have. I'm going to get some parts printed in brass and stuff like that, but this is a really kind of good, well put together hilt. Really happy with it. Really happy with the way it's turned out. If you've got any questions, Laura, let me know. If not, I'll get this one wrapped up, do some testing, get it packed up and sent off to you as soon as possible.
Mercenary.
Yeah, very nice. Hope you're happy with it. Thanks for watching, guys. May the force be with you, and I will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.